Buddy,
how do you do?
Evening, Al.
We are we all over Halloween?
Oh, I was over Halloween before it even started.
I was going to say, I saw Glenn. I had dinner in his restaurant Halloween night. That was fun. We all enjoyed that a lot.
Thank you.
And Glenn was out schlepping pizza on the...
Schlepping?
Schlepping pizza.
Be like schlocking, or not schlepping.
On the drive. How many pizza slices do you think you sold?
Like 500-600.
500 or 600
That's a lot of
pieces. Oh my gosh.
It's almost like Spiritus in Provincetown.
And we're getting ready for Smart Ride.
Yeah.
How many condoms were used that night?
And we have a special interview we're going to do, our breaking news, which we're getting ready to do.
Awesome.
Well, we queer up breaking news. Admiral Dr. Rachel Levine gets the last laugh on Senator Rand Paul's vicious attack. And we discuss the GOP culture war going on in the White House interview with Queer News Tonight's Part 2 of 4. Well, this evening, Queer News Tonight brings you Admiral Dr. Rachel Levine. She is America's first 4-star trans admiral and the first trans Senate-confirmed cabinet member. Tonight, Levine talks about the history of the Senate confirmation process and Rand Paul's attempt to block her, and then what Levine offered to do for him. She discusses the health challenges that are being created because of the political nature of health and her nomination, and discussion includes midterm elections, culture wars, and using trans as a possible political wedge, and the critical health disparities that she sees for the LGBTQI+ community. She also discusses growing fears in the trans and broad LGBTQI+ community and the support she directly sees from the White House, President Biden, and Vice President Harris. Watch this. Do you think you'll get to a point in your life, long after this role, long after your political role, long after your medical role as a pediatrician, that you'll get to the point where you're just Rachel Levine or Admiral Levine, and that's it? Do you think you'll get there?
I think I will, because I think that that'll demonstrate the progress that our community has made. Is that we don't need the adjective to describe my service in those terms. But we've made progress, but we still have a long way to go.
A long way to go. I want to, speaking of that, I want to, of course, we can't get through our conversation with you for our community about, without talking about the politics of this. March 24 becomes history for the LGBTQI+ community. You go before Senate confirmation, first in history. The final vote is 52-48. I remind all of our listeners that means 100% of the Democrats voted for you, and we got 2 Republicans, and we cheer for that. So it's 52-48. What were your feelings when that vote came through, 52-48?
So my feelings were gratitude and feelings of relief that I was able to successfully complete the process. But I did have gratitude that my confirmation was as a bipartisan vote. With the Republican senators that voted for me. One of the challenges that we have faced from a public health perspective is the politicalization of public health response to COVID-19 and the politicalization of, for example, something like my nomination. So I'm a positive and optimistic person, and I think that over time, these issues won't be political. They will be, in terms of public health and in terms of, the qualifications of someone to serve in public health in this type of position.
Those words land on me very well, by the way. Senator Rand Paul, I want to come back to that exchange. I watched that very closely.
Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we believe that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question.
You're a pediatrician. You have worked with children your entire life, and it seems to be kind of a dog, well, not kind of, it is a dog whistle in terms of the trans community and dealing with children. And you're an expert, you're a world-class expert in dealing with children, and you're trans, and both can be true. Rand Paul challenges you over and over again, and I thought it was interesting that you come back to the same answer twice, which is, I look forward to coming to your office and us being able to discuss and educate on the issues on both sides. He asked for the record to be read that you don't answer the question, as opposed to acknowledging the point that you made. I'm just curious, all of these months later, since that Senate confirmation hearing, did Senator Paul ever invite you to his office to come and have that exchange and conversation and an educational format? Did you ever?
No, I have not received an invitation to his office to discuss transgender medicine and the standards of care, but my offer stands, and I would be very pleased to discuss that with the senator and/or his staff.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's lots in the layers of that, but I want to get to the point of what happened at that moment and what has happened since, because it's very keenly aware of our trans community and our broad LGBTQ community as we move toward the midterm elections and the Democrats holding power in the House and the slightest of majorities with the Vice President in the Senate. We seem to be right in the midst of a culture war and a focus of using marginalized communities at the very greatest, I suspect, the trans community. What's your reaction about where we are in the development of the culture war, using trans as a political wedge, and where we're moving to for the midterms in 22?
So, I view these issues with my medical and public health lens. And so health equity is one of the priorities at HHS. It's one of Secretary Becerra's priorities and one of my priorities as the Assistant Secretary for Health. And that includes health equity for the LGBTQI community. And so, it is critically important that we deal with the health disparities that exist in our nation. And COVID-19 has demonstrated the depth and breadth of those health disparities. And again, that includes our community. And so we want to make sure that the members of the LGBTQI plus community have full access to healthcare in all of its different aspects, and that none of these issues should be, again, politicized, because this is a public health and an issue of health disparities, health equity, and access to care. So that's the lens with which I view this. And so we are working at HHS to make sure that our community has full access to care. One example of that is the Office of Civil Rights has declared that that is the interpretation of the Affordable Care Act in Section 1557, that it says that you can't discriminate on the basis of sex, that includes sexual orientation and gender identity. That includes all members of our community, and that we cannot be discriminated against according to the Affordable Care Act, and it includes all the different aspects and provisions of the Affordable Care Act. And so, we are working closely across HHS to implement that.
Admiral Levine, there's growing fear in the trans community as it relates to health and other related vital needs. There's growing fear in the trans community and broadly in the LGBTQI plus community broadly that in the midterms, the loss of the control of the House and the loss of the narrowest margin in the Senate will have significant and adverse effects on the trans and the LGBTQ community. Do you share those fears?
Well, those are political issues. And again, my role is in terms of public health. I know that our community has President Biden's support. He has articulated that numerous times, including in his first address to Congress. We have Vice President Harris's support. We have support for our community across the administration, including at HHS with Secretary Becerra. And so I will do everything that I can in my role as the Assistant Secretary for Health to advocate for health equity and to advocate for equity, inclusion, and diversity for all members of the LGBTQI plus community.
Well, tomorrow we are going to bring you part 3, where Admiral Levine talks about the LGBTQ plus community specifically, and if the L and the G and the B and the Q are doing enough for the T. Also, hear her comments on hashtag I stand with lesbians and hashtag cis with the T, and the controversy over Dave Chappelle. Her words about our community are going to surprise you.
I have one comment for Senator Paul. He's an ophthalmologist, and I have heard that minors are allowed to get laser surgery on their eyes. That's a permanent life-changing thing, and I've never heard him say that minors can't get laser surgery on their eyes. It's ridiculous. Medicine is not a one-size-fits-all thing. It never has been, never will be. And we are talking about helping people live better lives. It shouldn't be a yes or no question.
But it's remarkable that we have someone like her with her experience and her education and her understanding of overall health care as someone that can then focus on those that are the most marginalized in our community, which would be the transgender that have the hardest time getting medical care. So kudos for her for getting that role and taking leadership.
We're lucky to have her on our team. And again, for an ophthalmologist, he certainly has a lack of vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, I'm curious, so much advocacy you do in the trans community. How does Admiral Levine reflect for you?
Well, it's really fascinating. She talked briefly about the Section 1557 ruling, which is completely critical for our community, but was also supposed to come into effect 5-6 years ago now, and is just now hopefully actually going to happen. And at this point, maybe it happens and maybe it doesn't. Maybe the Senate changes, maybe we lose it. But we can't lose the fact that we have Admiral Levine there as a trans person and a medical professional. And that is something critical that they won't be able to take it away from us. And it means so much.
One other question, a unique opportunity with you sitting here at the table as you see a portion of this interview. Admiral Levine, previously Dr. Levine, first Senate confirmation in history in the trans community. Highest trans post ever in history in our community, and now the first 4-star general, admiral, in the military. How does the trans community respond to those first?
And I think all we can do is be incredibly excited about the changes that have come, especially coming right off of the last administration where we just lost so much over and over and over again. And look forward to the next first. I'd like to see an actual cabinet position, an actual secretary, instead of just an assistant secretary who is trans. And the 52-48 vote is not very encouraging that that's actually going to happen as soon as we would like it. But I think we're headed there.
It's interesting. Admiral Levine said, I asked, very specifically, do you long for the day where you're just Rachel? Long after this is done, long after you're not serving anymore, do you look forward to just being Rachel Levine, not trans first, Admiral, doctor, etc., trans? And she said, yes, I look forward to that. But we've got a long, long way to go. I thought it was really brilliant. Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It is 8 p.m. Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens here, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the partnership between Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine. Hotspots is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. We bring you the best of the LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our community.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. And let's begin by welcoming anchor Glen Weinzimer. And he is the founder of the Smart Ride, the second largest AIDS bicycle ride in the country, and is the only one of its size to donate 100% of the funds raised to AIDS service organizations. He also owns Bona Italian Restaurant, where they celebrate Give Back Mondays, offering a portion of all sales to a different charity each week. Good evening, Glenn. And we're showing the QR code to support Smart Ride. $12.5 million.
And so far, over 800,000 raised this year, and we're still 2 weeks away. So I believe in our community and that we can easily break $1 million for the services that so many people still need in our community for education and prevention. So yeah, that if you hit on that QR code, you'll make a general donation that will end up at 100% going back to the benefiting agencies.
Awesome.
So thanks for having me again. Okay, let's welcome anchor Scott Migliori. Scott is an attorney and advocate for the trans and non-binary communities. He is the co-founder of Trans Collaborative Network, an organization dedicated to affirming and uplifting these communities through education, empowerment, and connections. Scott was also the first student at the University of Virginia School of Law to transition while still attending. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. To welcome anchor David Hopkins. David is known in South Florida for his charity work, especially that within the leather community. He is also part of the production team here at the Happening Out Television Network, helping to bring your favorite shows to life. Good evening, David.
Hey, everybody. And the Leather Mask Ball is on this year. It'll be at the Eagle on November 27th. That's Saturday. So go on our Instagram or to the Eagle's webpage to find out more. So let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, a 1999 inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 2 short story collections and 5 books of poetry. I can't speak, he writes. As an entertainment journalist, his celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ+ and mainstream publications and websites. And his Screensaver movie review column can be found in South Florida Gay News, San Francisco's Bay Area Reporter, RottenTomatoes.com, and more. Good evening, Gregg.
Good evening, y'all. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Tuesday, November 2nd.
Let's queer up education. GOP lawmaker demands to know if schools have books on racism and LGBTQ people. State Representative Matt Krause, chair of the Texas House Committee on General Investigating sent a letter to the Texas Education Agency, in addition to some school district superintendents, that included a list of 850 books under investigation for containing information about racism or LGBTQ+ issues. He also said schools should identify any other books they have that cover topics related to sexuality, HIV and AIDS, and STIs, as well as any book that might make students feel discomfort or psychological distress by consciously or unconsciously implying that their race is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, using language from white parents this past year who protested school districts to stop teaching about racism. The list includes books on diversity and historic LGBTQ+ figures, including books on Harvey Milk, Being Jazz by Jazz Jennings, and popular anti-fascist stories like V for Vendetta and The Handmaid's Tale. I think this is just crazy.
Well, you know, he's a faithful conservative.
He is a faithful
That's
conservative.
what he calls himself.
Probably would call himself evangelical also.
Yeah. Well,
And you know, it's all driven by this fervor over critical race theory, which is ridiculous because it's a legal college course. It's not something they teach in schools. But all critical race theory even is discussing how racism can exist systematically in a systemic system. It's not pointing out any one race. It's the concept that societies can be built around racist concepts and how to recognize them and work around them. It's not targeting any one race or anything, but of course, evangelicals and the stupid white people are rallying around it.
But how can you have racism against a group if you don't read the books to decide that you don't like them?
That's the bullseye. I don't know if y'all saw Trevor Noah yesterday. He did a whole segment in the show in Virginia, where they interviewed people about why they were voting for such and such. And one of the top issues is critical race theory. And these people in Southern accents, and by the way, I can get away with it because I'm Virginian. My family's from Virginia, from the Deep South. And they interviewed all these people and them going, well, you know, I don't know much about this critical race theory, but I don't like it, and it's a big issue. And then they would point out, the reporter would say, but they don't teach critical race theory in any school in Virginia, and that would befuddle them. Or they would say, could you tell us a little bit about what critical race theory is? And you would see answer after answer of, well, I don't really know much about it, but what little I do know I don't like. That's ignorance, dude.
Yeah.
That's
The Daily Show has always done a great job on that.
Yeah,
They really have.
Right. It's time to queer up politics. Record number of LGBTQ+ candidates running in elections. The LGBTQ Victory Fund has just released the 2021 Out on the Trail report, which details the number and diversity of LGBTQ candidates for office in 2021. At least 410 out LGBTQ people are running for offices with elections in 2021, a 7.3% increase compared to the last odd-numbered election cycle in 2019, when 382 out candidates ran. Of the 410 candidates, 327 will be on the ballot this month, an 18.5% jump from 2019, the previous record for the number of LGBTQ candidates in an odd-numbered election year. Mayor Anise Parker, president and CEO of the LGBTQ Victory Fund, said, quote, LGBTQ candidates are running in historic numbers and increasingly reflect the diversity of America, with more LGBTQ people of color, bisexual, queer, and non-binary leaders choosing public service as the way to make change. Next week, we have an opportunity to elect hundreds of LGBTQ leaders who can challenge the anti-LGBTQ forces influencing school boards, city councils, and state legislatures across the country.
so my question and my concern is, those numbers are great, but do they outnumber the number of QAnon following, hate spewing conservative candidates?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Sadly, not only do they not in many cases, but also that's not even representative of our actual representation. You know, LGBTQ community is about 7% of the U.S. or world population, and we would need thousands more candidates to effectively reflect that. But we don't even have racial equity in politics, let alone queer equity.
Do we know, and maybe no one here knows that, how many people actually won that were LGBTQ the last off cycle?
In the rotation of the 20 rotation cycle a year ago, More than 50% won.
That's great.
So Q
Those are encouraging
representation
numbers.
and winning was significant. I echo David's observation. We had an LGBT representative the night that we reported the survey study of 2020 being the all-time record for 2020. And I thought, wow, 1,000 candidates running for office. Isn't that fantastic? Until the representative said, yes, but think about it this way. If we matched our 7% population, which David just said, we would need 21,000 people running for office in the LGBTQ community. So we love the small victories, but we've got a long way to go.
Next, we queer up the USA. History: same-sex partners now able to access Social Security survivor benefits. Same-sex partners and spouses will now have access to Social Security survivor benefits they were previously denied due to now-defunct bans on gay marriage. In the past, surviving partners who had been barred from legally marrying were ineligible to receive benefits. Couples who were able to marry could only successfully apply for benefits if they were married for at least 9 months, even if that wasn't possible due to previous bans on marriage. In 2018, LGBTQ rights group Lambda Legal filed 2 lawsuits against the Social Security Administration over the decrees. Federal courts in Arizona and Washington ruled last year that excluding surviving partners from benefits was unconstitutional. However, the Trump administration appealed those decisions. The Justice Department and Social Security Administration announced yesterday, that they have dismissed the appeals. This is a huge step. Government recognition of our rights on any level is a step. People are like, oh, we had gay marriage, that's all we need. No, this is something very simple that's marriage related that still wasn't being recognized 10 years later. And so many people have given up the fight, or they don't think there's anything else to fight with, or they live in the bubbles like we do here in Wilton Manors, where everything seems okay. And they don't realize that much of the country and world are still fighting for these basic rights that everyone else in the country gets.
And how long until Social Security runs out again? Is that clock still ticking?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to me, the reaction of Social Security in the especially gay men community, the G of our LGBTQ, is the same reaction that we have in our jumping in on this story. David finishes the story and we all kind of go, And you know why? It's because since 6 years of gay marriage, a very tiny percentage of gay men in America got married. A very tiny percentage. This doesn't wash over them because Social Security benefits for survivor benefits in marriage is not critically important in our community, which is interesting to me because it's like the chicken or the egg. This is a gigantic story, however, if you are married, because the benefit loss because of a lifetime of contribution to a Social Security system is really substantively important to surviving spouse, surviving partner. But you got to get married to do it, and that's the interest.
Well, and that's really what this story is about, though. It's about couples who could not get married 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, and therefore, because their partner passed before they were able to be married for 9 months, this is not about going forward with Social Security benefits for people who are now able to be married. It's about people who were harmed for decades because marriage equality did not come soon enough for them.
Right. And one last note before we move on. I think it's highly interesting that the most pro-gay president in history was the one that fought tooth and nail. No, we're not giving the gay boys any Social Security benefits. Thanks for your gay support. You are definitely, Mr. Trump, the most gay president ever.
And now we queer up the world. LGBTQ plus Afghans escape to Britain as Taliban hunts for them. A story of LGBTQ Afghans who fled their home country have arrived in Britain, the first in a wave that London says it will evacuate. As advocates warn, they have received calls from hundreds more people who fear Taliban persecution. The 29 people, including students and activists who spoke out about their rights in Afghanistan, are the first of many more vulnerable LGBTQ Afghans who will arrive, quote, in the coming months, end quote, the Foreign Office said Saturday. It did not detail how they managed to leave. The United States and European nations have frozen key sources of funding, wary of Taliban promises that it has changed its harsh ways. During its previous era in power, from 1996 until 2001, those who broke the rules, not the least women and gay men, could face execution.
It's a tough time.
It's another one.
It's a tough time to be gay in some places in the world.
I mean, I can't imagine what it'd be like to be there and to just leave everything and go into exile. I mean, it's just...
Well, and how to make that connection so that you can find your way to Britain.
Right.
You know, that's not, there's no booklet that says, okay, you'd like to escape now, here, follow this. I mean, you've got to really be under the wire and hidden until you safely get into neutral airspace. Or
there's about a dozen LGBT charity organizations in the world that are basically creating a modern day version of an underground railroad out of Afghanistan, because literally if you're caught and they accusation is one thing, but they prove that you're gay, execution is definitely a possibility. And in fact, the two choices are having a wall pushed over on you or being hung. Those are your two choices if you're a gay man in Afghanistan.
Well, that is our queer headlines for today. So let's catch up on the LGBTQ plus news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies.
Queer News Tonight has reported on coronavirus on every news broadcast since January 6, 2020. Tonight we report that as of today, more than 3,285,000 LGBTQ plus Americans have contracted COVID-19.
Queer News Tonight remembers the more than 53,000 LGBTQ plus Americans that have died from coronavirus.
But the news is improving because as of today, more than 423 million vaccination doses have been administered in the U.S.
That's our pandemic news for tonight. Next, we report on our partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership. Happening Out Television Network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ plus religious live broadcast in the world, as more than 30,000 watch every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
I'm John Buckley from Unity Coalition and Celebrate Orgullo, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, finally, we finished tonight's Queer News headlines with what we call in a segment LGBTQ plus Flash News. In LGBTQ plus Flash News, Alaska 5000 read the internet's thirstiest tweets, and it was almost too much for her to handle. Alaska Thunderfuck 5000, RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 2 winner and author of a new memoir called My Name's Yours, What's Alaska? Love that. Recently sat down to read thirst tweets on the internet. The tweets included such classics as, quote, I want Sasha Velour and Alaska to pull my legs off, end quote. Or how about this one? Quote, I want you to paint my face and sit on it, end quote. If you're one of the people who can stomach Alaska's voice for 7 minutes without wishing for death, head over to BuzzFeed and check out the full video. I love Alaska Thunderfuck. When she did the cruise, one of the funniest bits I've ever seen, at the top of the stairs that had 20 stairs, she tripped on the first stair, and then she realized, oh wait, I should run with the bit, and she rolled all the way down to the stage floor.
You know, I didn't know that thirsty tweets could be so incredibly violent until I saw some of those things that were going across that screen.
Neither she nor anyone else is going to sit on my face.
She wrote a book? I didn't even know she could read a book.
Alaska is on line 3.
To be fair, it was my read in the story. I wrote it, not Al. I'd much rather watch With Trixie and Katya.
Ooh.
Okay, next up, LGBTQ plus flash news. Functional cure for HIV approved for human trials. Human trials are about to begin on potentially groundbreaking HIV treatment that is being hailed as a possible cure for the virus. According to press release from Excision Biotherapeutics, a biotech company, America's Food and Drug Administration approved the treatment's progression to phase 1/2 human trials. Excision's potential cure is known as EBT-101 and is being developed in partnership with researchers from Temple University in Philadelphia. Excision's CEO Daniel Dornbush explained to Philadelphia Magazine that the term functional cure means small amounts of HIV could remain in the body, but not at a level that would make the affected person test positive for the virus. This is groundbreaking. You know, I've been living with HIV for 28 years, and the idea that you can take something and can prevent it, cure it, not have to be on medications for the rest of your life, this changes a lot of the game.
It's about damn time.
It's amazing news, and I can't wait till they name the drug so we can make Glenn try and say that word too.
Yeah, right. And, you know, there's nobody at this table or in South Florida that would be happier on functional cure than Glenn as the executive director of the Smart Ride. He wants to be obsoleted.
Exactly.
So let's hope that
I want to be unemployed on my terms.
Right.
And we've been waiting for a drug that can do this since before I was born. So I'm really excited for this.
He's younger than us.
A bit.
Bitch.
LGBTQ plus flash news. Grindr pics just got even more revealing. Tired of getting banned from Grindr for showing a little too much skin in those bathing suit pics? Well, Grindr finally agrees. In a post to the Grindr blog, the company announced that it will relax its previously strict prohibitions against nudity. The move, according to the company, will allow for a more diverse and inclusive atmosphere. In the statement, Grindr said, quote, "We recognize that assessments of how sexual a photo is can be influenced by common gender biases, how much skin someone shows, how much body hair they are expected to have, how the fat on their body is distributed, etc. The revised rules will allow, quote, some images of buttocks if they are non-graphic and without an overtly sexual context," end quote. Grindr still prohibits full frontal nude, pornographic, or overtly sexual photos on user profiles. Translation, don't post hole on main. I haven't spent too much time on Grindr, but I assume this new rule change is to allow all of the closeted Republican congressmen to finally post pictures of their faces as a non-overtly sexual asshole photo.
Nice. I don't care if they let me wear something more revealing. I'm sticking to a Spanx one piece.
Hey, Al, what's Grindr?
Right.
I don't even know what I'm going to say after Scott's comment. That was it.
It was genius. And Uma's got a new book. If this rule would have existed, Andy Weiner still would be in the closet.
Next in LGBTQ plus flash news. Franklin Graham claims that any suggestion he's anti-LGBTQ plus is simply not true.
It's just not true.
Evangelical leader Franklin Graham is defending a police chief in Florida that's under criticism for speaking at Graham's recent law enforcement retreat. In his defense, Graham claimed that any claims that he or the Billy Graham Evangelical Association, named after his father, is anti-LGBTQ is, quote, just not true. Just this month, Graham praised North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who said LGBTQ people are filth for, quote, having the guts to stand up and tell the truth, end quote. He called for foreign nations to deny people with official gender-neutral markers on their passport, and the BGEA was named in a report as a group materially supporting proposed law further criminalizing LGBTQ people around the world. Yet Graham claims, quote, we're not anti-anybody. We love people enough to tell them the truth of God's word. Maybe Mr. Graham needs a dictionary so he can understand the world's love and truth a little better. Maybe if he loved himself and was truthful enough, most of his congregants wouldn't be tapping under airport bathrooms anymore, but that's a different story.
Wow. And I'm a person of faith and support faith, and I'm always scared of a person who says, God is talking to me and I know the right words out of God's mouth. The worst evangelical sin you can commit is to lie. And that's what you're doing, Franklin Graham.
I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that the police chief under fire is from Florida, but...
Those are my words.
I was actually peering over at your paper. But, you know, it's just... We kind of hope that law enforcement spends a little less time at Franklin Graham's retreats and a little bit more time actually paying attention to what the law is.
Yes. And not shooting.
He used my words, so that's it. I'm not shocked that Florida, again, is part of the headline on something that deals with bigotry or racism or anything like that.
Well, maybe Franklin Graham misunderstood and he thought that Jesus said, stay hateful until I get back.
Yes, right.
LGBTQ plus flash news. Religious versus LGBTQ rights. Supreme Court refuses to take up Catholic hospital appeal against trans man. The Supreme Court on Monday turned down an appeal from a Catholic hospital in California that was sued after refusing to perform a hysterectomy for a transgender man. The court's denial, issued without comment, sends the lawsuit back to state court for further proceedings against the hospital and avoids, for now, the issue of when claims of religious freedom can trump anti-discrimination laws. Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch said the court should have taken the case. The three horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yes.
I'm personally of the opinion that if people want to restrict the rights of other people, they should be required to have vasectomies. It stops abortion, it stops all these problems, just quick snip and you're done.
You know, we're at the most challenging time I have ever seen in my entire life of the Supreme Court. This situation is very confusing, but yesterday's hearing from Texas basically saying, nope, the Supreme Court is obsolete and we should make all of the decisions in Texas. Okay, let's go right along with that.
I mean, I think most of us are just waiting for Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito to stop being able to make any decisions for the rest of us.
Yeah, we can only hope that there'll be some change within the conservative on the Supreme Court within this particular presidential round.
COVID.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and family.
Post this broadcast in the many groups you're a member of. Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell these type of stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of the Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Scott Migliori, Glen Weinzimer,
Nicely done.
David Hopkins, and Gregg Shapiro. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. But before we finish, we have one last story.
Queer Up South Florida. Comedian Peter Basweto will talks new show, Pandemic, Being Naked, Bears and Crocheting. Recently, Queer News Tonight sat down with very funny comedian Peter
Basweto.
Thank you. To discuss his upcoming 2-act play, Vent and Chester, as well as his other projects, including Crocheting Naked. Watch this.
Well, next up, we have a very special interview. Let's welcome Peter Basweto, an internationally known comedian, writer, producer, director, and actor, selling out in 5 countries, including his 2 sold-out shows here at the Broward Center for Performing Arts in Fort Lauderdale. 2 years ago, he created and wrote a pilot episode to a new sitcom called Vent and Chester, which I saw, by the way, which went on to win awards at many film festivals. Unfortunately, this small little thing called Pandemic came in and shut the project down. So Peter decided to rewrite the script into a 2-act play, which will be performed this holiday season right here in Wilton Manors. He is also a huge advocate on dog rescue and uses his new YouTube video podcast called Ask a Naked Guy Crocheting to raise money in rescuing dogs from slaughterhouses in China. Well, welcome, Peter, to Queer News Tonight.
Thank you, Al. Good to see you again.
As I said, I saw your sitcom preview.
Yeah.
Lots about you. We've met a couple of times. I'm holding up the placard card. You're going to be here in Walton Manors. Before we talk about your show, let's talk about entertainment. This is a great opportunity. Very topical from my standpoint. In LGBT entertainment circles, RuPaul, 12 years ago really changed everything. Changed it for LGBT singers, performers, live venue entertainment, things that would happen in small houses or musicians at prides or bars. Everything gravitated toward drag queens.
Okay.
And we have been in that environment. So I'm always fascinated about LGBT entertainers in how they have survived and in many instances thrived in the world of RuPaul and RuPaul's Drag Race, and now in pandemic. Tell us a little bit about the experience of, I'm assuming you're gay. I don't want to out you.
No, I'm straight.
Right? Okay.
Don't tell my girlfriend.
Yes, I won't. Michelle, that's what we call her. I won't tell Michelle. Tell us a little bit about the entertainment experience in our community.
In the gay community?
Yeah,
well, one thing that I've noticed, what you just said, actually, one thing I've noticed is that the gay community seems to revolve mostly around drag queens and sexually motivated content, which is fine. There's a market for that.
Right.
There's a need for that.
And you don't do one of those, but you do the other.
Well, I kind of do a little bit of both. I mean, my stand-up comedy shows will feature me doing some female impersonations, in case you haven't seen those, which are a lot of fun.
I haven't seen that.
But this particular project, Vent in Chester, really does not have anything to do with drag queens or being sexually motivated in any way.
Yeah.
There are some sexual moments, but the entire plot of the show is more of a traditional style.
Yeah.
You know, there's a conflict, there's a love interest, there's an arc, there's an antagonist, there's a bad guy.
Yeah. Are we ready for LGBT stories with men, women, whatever it might be, to be normalized like we've seen in traditional theater? Are we ready for it?
Abso-freaking-lutely. It's time. It really is.
Yeah.
We need all kind of, there's all different types of gay people, so there should be all different types of gay entertainment.
When I first I saw your the preview that you did on the sitcom, the number one thing that I thought of when I was watching it, and I came away with, is this could be a preview in Los Angeles or in New York. It could be a pitch to people in the room to help in funding mechanisms for a sitcom. But the difference was it was two guys, and the people that were around the two guys were also guys for the most part in this particular theme. And that's what caught me by surprise. And I thought, gosh, even at this point in my life, why do I think that this is unusual? Because it should be completely unusual. When you got to this, what was your process and why you decided to do it?
Well, first of all, I wanted to create a show that revolved around two middle-aged gay characters, because in the entertainment industry it seems that everything revolves around the younger community. I wanted a show that not only celebrated gay men but middle-aged gay men, because we still exist and we're still relevant and we're still funny.
Manners.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right? But we're still relevant and we're still funny. And the plot of Vent in Chester, especially the character of Chester, he's middle-aged. He was married to a woman for 24 years. He has a daughter. And he had his very first gay experience. He had his first boyfriend, his very first love interest at the age of 48. And I mean, Al, come on, you and I are in the same tax bracket. How many men do you know who were married to a woman for 20, 25 years with kids who came out late in life? His character is extremely relatable.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I want to come back to the show that you're doing here for the holidays, but I want to ask you a couple of other questions about entertainment. I read somewhere you were on Oprah.
Well, I wasn't on Oprah. I was seen on Oprah.
Seen on
yeah, like 10 years ago, she was having a contest. She was looking for America's newest talk show host.
Oh.
And I submitted an audition video. And out of 25,000 submissions, I made the top 20.
Oh, awesome.
And the Oprah producers called me. They interviewed me over the phone. Unfortunately, I didn't make the top 10.
Yeah.
So I didn't go on her show.
Yeah.
But they aired like 5 or 6 clips of my video on her show. So technically, I was seen on Oprah.
Okay, I love that. And the podcast that you do now, everybody's jumped into the world of podcasts. Lots of high quality content.
I love my podcast.
Yeah. Now tell me about that. First off, are you naked?
I am naked, but it's YouTube, so I'm covered.
Yeah.
Because I'm crocheting.
Well, wait. Hold on one second before I get to that. Right. You can't be adult content and have people watch in YouTube. Tell me the crocheting, because you don't seem to me to be the body type, personality type, the any type to be crocheting. Explain that to me.
I am a professional crocheter. My grandmother taught me when I was 4 years old, and I never forgot. It's always been kind of...
You are so gay now. See, before,
seriously.
Right?
Seriously. And I just made a rainbow scarf, so that makes me even gayer. It would go well with your glasses.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was a read, by the way. So you've crocheted all your life.
Oh, yeah.
You've continued.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a little secret of mine until now.
And when you say secret, do you say it that way?
Yes, they do. Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. And your podcast, clever name, of course, helping dogs.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about that. Just the real PG version.
Yeah, I'll try, because it's a very upsetting topic. But in China, they believe that the more pain and fear a dog experiences before it dies, the better their meat tastes, because their adrenaline flows through their muscles at high time of anxiety. So not only are dogs killed and sold for their meat, but they're killed in the most barbaric way possible. Every year they have what's called a Yulin Dog Meat Festival, where millions of dogs are...
How is it possible of me in the news not hearing this? Is this not well known?
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
I was really looking to partner with a local Fort Lauderdale dog shelter, and upon my Google searches, I came across these ridiculously disturbing videos. And I looked more into it. So I found this organization called No Dogs Left Behind. They're an organization that has sanctuaries set up all throughout China, where they rescue dogs, they bring the dogs to the sanctuaries, they give them the medical attention that they need, ship them all to the United States, and they're adopted by loving families.
That's
amazing.
Fantastic. And
amazing.
And you can come to your podcast, you can make donation, you can exchange services, whatever it is that you're doing to help support those dogs in China. Good for you. I want to ask you also, in terms of the entertainment vein of what you do, you make jokes about everything, and everything is fair game. Give me some perspective of what you watched over the last month with Dave Chappelle.
I saw the clip of Dave Chappelle. Now, I'm a comedian. I'm a huge fan of Seth MacFarlane and Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the South Park guys and the Family Guy. I love that kind of humor. I love politically incorrect humor. I'm like Joan Rivers. She talks about this a lot. It doesn't matter how horrible something is, you have to find the humor in it, to make light of it, to joke about it, to get you through it. That's my opinion. With Dave Chappelle, I watched the clip.
By watching the clip, do you mean you watched the special?
I watched the content that's getting so much shared. Okay. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I must not be seeing what a lot of other people are seeing. Yeah. I thought I saw it as comedy, and
he makes the note. You should watch the special, especially you. You would have an interesting perspective on it. So much of what he says is exactly that. It's highly offensive, but he does it in a genius way. The knife is so sharp, it's going in between your ribs, and you don't even know it.
I mean, have you seen his show? For God's sakes! Exactly. I mean, come on. The guy really is a genius. Yeah, he's a comedic genius.
And but his situation is such that it is. He basically calls the LGBTQ community the mafia. That
we have
down so well that we're running our bitches all over America. And he expresses in great jealousy that he wishes he comes right out and says, I wish my community would have accomplished what your community is in approximately the same time. You came in 69, we came in 59, and we haven't gotten as far in our community as yours, so I'm jealous of you. Now, he's making a joke, but he's also making a point.
Absolutely. And that's what comedy is. You make a point, through humor.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if it offends you, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you're offended by something that somebody says, that's fine. Keep it to yourself because other people find it funny.
Yeah, it's very interesting because he makes the observation of, well, why can't you hate me? But why are you advocating that in cancel culture that I be eliminated?
Exactly.
Why try to kill me?
Exactly.
Is the
and believe I've been on that end of the spectrum myself. People have tried to shut me down and silence me and force me to apologize. I will never apologize for a joke. That's just never going to happen.
I've been trying to do that for the last 4 months.
Trying to get me to apologize?
And shut you down and shut you up. Let's talk about the actual show itself.
Sure.
When I have the placard, we have some information on it. I'm going to come and see you. It launches November 27th through the 11th. Tell us a little bit about the location and where you're going to be at.
Okay, so we're performing it at the Center for Spiritual Living in Oakland Park, which is a fantastic venue.
Yes,
it's
not well known, but a great venue.
It will be now.
Yeah. Okay, all right. And just north of Wilton.
It's on Dixie, right on the corner of Dixie and Commercial. It's not far at all.
Yeah. And how many shows are you doing?
We're doing 8 performances.
Yeah. Now, is it true you're charging $390? Is there any truth to that?
I wish.
Right.
Someday.
Yeah. Right.
Someday.
So you're going to do 8 shows at the theater. How does it differ from the sitcom that you created? So you were forced because of pandemic. Did you do anything during pandemic?
I did. What do you mean? Did I do anything?
You couldn't get out and work.
No, that's why I created the podcast, Ask a Naked Guy Crocheting, because I do that in the comfort of my own home.
Wait, I want to make sure I've got this right. During pandemic, how you continued to be viable and ultimately very successful was taking your clothes off and crocheting. Do I have this right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay. There's more to it than that. Like, because I'm covered up. Like the ball of yarn is covering me. Yeah. People get angry because I'm not fully naked.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm kind of angry right now.
Well, I mean, the whole point of the show was to make people laugh and raise money for a good cause.
Right.
If you really are expecting to stare at my dick for half an hour, then you're missing the entire point of the show.
Well, apparently I'm missing the
Just
point.
Google me.
Go to your OnlyFans page and you can see the exact same thing. I got it.
No, mine is OnlyFan. I got one fan.
How long have you been telling that joke?
Oh, that was my first time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're going to do 8 shows.
Yeah.
And what can we expect? We're going to come.
You can.
First off, are we going to laugh?
Well, of course. It's not just a comedy, though.
Yeah.
It's a comedy, tragedy, drama. They're real characters with a real serious situation. It's a spiritual journey. These two, Vent and Chester, these 2 characters are completely the opposite. And they're roommates now. And it's like, how do these unlikely characters live together as roommates, and how do they influence each other's lives? So at one time you'll find yourself laughing and then crying. And who knows, it might even make you think.
Yeah. And I love to think occasionally. I do it at Queer News Tonight. Maybe once out of every 4 or 5.
You could tell when smoke comes out of your ears.
Right. And tell us a little bit about your counterpart in the...
Larry Basweto. He's awesome.
And when he watches this, he's going to love at 14 minutes that I finally was able to push his name into the show and that Peter would finally mention you. Congratulations.
I actually told you not to mention him. It's all about me, but, you know. No, Larry's great. He's a great actor. He did a great job at the reading, at the auditions, and he's also nominated for Best Actor with the South Florida Gay News Best Of contest.
That's a
so
cool
vote for
endorsement. Do you have you roughly? You've been here in the community for a long time. How long? You came here in the 1990s?
No, oh my God, no. We've been here for just over 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and in the time that you've been here, do you wish that there would be more live entertainment like this? We have lots of singers, we have lots of musicians, but we don't have a lot of you.
Well, there'll never be a lot of me.
Especially naked and crocheting.
I think Fort Lauderdale has a fantastic balance of all types of entertainment. I really do. I really do.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Peter Basweto. Basweto. I know. I play with your name all the time because it's so
Everybody
interesting.
gets
Your last name is very, very interesting. Peter Basweto.
Sicilian.
Yes. Really? You're from Sicily?
Well, my father's side is. I'm half Sicilian, half Italian. Yeah. So you know what that means, right?
Which half?
I could cook your last meal.
I thought you were going to make a different Italian joke, but okay, I'll take that one too. You want to make sure that you see this event in Chester. It's going to be at the Center for Spiritual Living.
Yeah.
November 27th to December 11th. I'm going to come and see it.
Well, I got to say, like half, there's only 8 VIP tickets left for opening night, so it's already selling very well.
Oh yeah, well that probably means I'm going to be put in the last row.
No, I got you front and center.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you check it out. You can buy tickets at your website, eventandchester.com. Yeah, we'll push that too. Right. Peter, great. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Al.
Fun. Queer News
Always good
tonight.
to see you.
Yep, and you too. Thanks, and make sure you come out, Vent in Chester, for the holidays. LGBTQ+ news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now.